So for today, what I would like you to do is go under the Unit 7 Covalent Bonding, and you're going to need two things. You're going to need what we started on Wednesday. I need to change this. Okay, we are not starting this. You need to do the other half of this sheet and then begin taking notes. So what you should have on this sheet that you did Wednesday, or you should have, is all you needed to do is just look at what was bonded to what and then look at the energy value next to it. So when this says metal to metal, okay, I'm going to look at beryllium to beryllium. So I know that those are metals, right? Well, here's the energy value, okay? Any of them that are metals go in this column, okay? And then a metal to non-metal, yada, 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 all the way down. Okay. And then a non-metal to a non-metal would be something like, let's do carbon to carbon. And what I wanted you to notice here when you're summarizing the trend is basically metal to metal bonds are the weakest. Metal to non-metal bonds are in the middle, and then non-metal to non-metal are going to be the strongest. I'm going to let you guys go through the rest of these and see which ones are, the metals, non-metals, and where they would go. But what you were supposed to do is to write the two elements in this column with the numbers next to it. So if you didn't do that, you might want to go back and do that. Type the trend down here. And then here you have ionic versus covalent bonding. And this is the part that I need you to do today. So if you go back to covalent bonding and you open up the slides, you're going to want to get these slides in your notebook. Okay. So these next few slides should be a review. So you've got valence electrons. We've talked about those in the last unit. And we talked about how to draw the Lewis dot structures or the electron dot diagrams. Okay. And then the octet rule. So all atoms are striving to get to 8 electrons unless you're hydrogen. If you're hydrogen, you only need 2 because helium only needs 2. Everybody else wants to be like the noble gases. They want to have 8 electrons in their outer shell. So sometimes what they do is they either gain, lose, or share their electrons. And that's how we're going to get into bonding. There's 2 different main types we'll talk about. This unit, we're going to focus on covalent bonding. And this is when a pair of electrons is shared between 2 nonmetal atoms, okay? So hydrogen is a nonmetal, oxygen is a nonmetal, hydrogen is also a nonmetal. Their electrons are shared among all of them. Versus over here with an ionic bond, it says electrons are transferred from a metal to a nonmetal. Well, in this case, sodium is the metal, chlorine is the nonmetal. And so sodium has actually transferred an electron to chlorine. Well, that goes back to valence electrons. Remember, sodium's in group 1. It's going to be a lot easier for sodium to lose an electron than to gain 7. Chlorine is over here in group 7. They have 7 valence electrons. So it's going to be easier for chlorine to gain 1 electron than to lose all 7. That's why group 1 tends to react a lot with group 7. And you're going to find that, especially when we get into more about ionic and covalent compounds. So what you're going to do is talk about what are valence electrons, what are the rules for drawing electron dot diagrams that come straight from your notes. Okay, that's even from the last unit. The rules are right here. Okay, and then what is the octet rule? Remember, OCT is very similar to octagon, and octagon has 8 sides. So the octet rule probably has something to do with the number 8. Then this says, look at the images below and answer the corresponding questions. So what we want you to notice here, what type of bond is being formed? How do you know? What type of bond is being formed? How do you know? Pay attention to if you have a metal bonding with a nonmetal, or if you have 2 nonmetals coming together. If it's a metal and a nonmetal, It's going to be an ionic bond. If it's a nonmetal being bonded to another nonmetal, it's covalent. So please pay attention to that as you answer these questions. When we say, how is this bond forming? You're going to tell me either the electrons are being transferred or the electrons are being shared. You might want to look at the definition between, or the differences between ionic and covalent bonds. Down here, this is a Venn diagram. Even if you don't fill it out on this sheet, I want you to at least draw a Venn diagram in your notebook. So completing this, the second half of this sheet, fixing this, if you didn't the other day, or if you might have done it wrong, that's going to be your attendance. And you need to have up to slide 6 in your notes. 3, 4, and 5 should all be review. Okay. If you have any questions, please reach out. We will be finishing our performance assessments on Monday. Thank you.